Hello and good morning, everyone. So, our topic for today is all about coffee. And we do know that there's more than 1 billion cups of coffee being consumed on a daily basis. And coffee is apparently the second most traded commodity in the world. So there's an awful lot of coffee being consumed, and it produces an awful lot of money. And as we know, so it's big business. But it's always about what you need to know, the facts about the coffee. Should you drink coffee? Should you not drink coffee? Is coffee healthy for you? So we need to be aware of certain things that coffee does do. So there's the good side and the bad side of coffee. And also you as the consumer, some of the things you might be aware in terms of the level of your own consumption. So yes, coffee is good. Yes, coffee is bad. Coffee contains lots of antioxidants. Good coffee, particularly if it's organic coffee, if it's properly processed, and then it's in the top 5 antioxidants of any food that you can consume. And we know that food also contains basically it's information, vibration, and so they communicate with our DNA. And we've talked about DNA before. So it's important to keep our DNA intact. So high level of information for our DNA. So yes, contains a lot of good antioxidants. And again, when we know about the word antioxidants, anti means against, oxidant means so against oxidation, which is rusting, rotting, aging. So you do want to consume things that prevent you from prematurely aging. We would say on the bad side, it is a stimulant, and so it affects people in different ways. And some of the areas that you need to be aware if coffee becomes something that you regularly consume is if you have issues, for example, with the adrenals. If your adrenals are burned out, and you know that the adrenals are something that affect us, fight or flight. So if you're hugely stressed, it's probably not the best idea to drink an awful lot of coffee, because it adds more to the stress. It adds more to the adrenals. And so yes, it gives you perhaps a kind of like a temporary boost, a temporary high feeling, because it does stimulate, but then after that you get the crash. And when you're doing the ups and downs with the adrenals, it also affects your cortisol, which creates all kinds of other implications, because these are hormones, engineers of the body. So certainly if you have an adrenaline issue, also people with thyroid issues should be aware. And then if you got hormonal imbalances. So if you're trying to rectify any of these situations, please be aware that too much coffee consumption, and then again, the type of coffee you might consume is also going to be very, very important. So yes, it's good, and yes, it's bad. And now you just have to factor in where you fall into. And of course, an awful lot has to do with the timing of the consumption. Generally, a lot of people, as they wake up first thing in the morning, they'll have a cup of coffee, or 2 or 3 perhaps, or a whole pot. And that gets you kind of going on the very raised levels of adrenaline, and you might just kind of really get to get up and go, and that perhaps can set off a lot of nervous energy there too. So what I do in the morning is first thing I do is always drink a lot of water, probably 1 liter of water within the first half hour that I'm up. And I'll have maybe some other beverages. I might do some lemon juice with some maple syrup and a little bit of cayenne pepper. I don't necessarily do it every day, or some combination of things like that. And then I'll have a coffee as well. And I used to choose a coffee at home that also has got a mushroom complex in there, and which creates a real nice balance and a smooth energy effect. So it doesn't give you the same stimulation. And organic with coffee is most important, because what you'll find is that coffee in general if it's not organic, it has the most amount of chemicals on it, something like 70 plus chemicals on it. So pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and who knows whatever else happens with it. But so that's what you need to be aware of. So it's important, if you are going to be drinking a lot of coffee, that, number one, you want to consume something that is organically grown. The better the organics, the more organics, the better it is. Yes, and then of course, coffee does have, here's a question from Frank, or a statement: I stopped drinking coffee 8 months ago due to its acidity. Does coffee drinking make you acidic? Yes, because coffee tends to be on the acidic side. So hugely important. So if you drink too much coffee, it upsets your whole body balance as well. And we know that when it comes to the pH levels of our body, we need to maintain balanced pHs. So if you're going to be drinking coffee, drink good water, eat more alkalizing foods, and myself, I like to drink a little bit more of the alkaline side of water, like Kangen water and so on. Better hydration, number one. That's the number one thing you want to do. And then after that is also because water is the universal solvent that makes everything happen. And never use, again, water in coffee, but it changes it. So sometimes people will say, well, I drink my water because I drink my coffee, and that's not so, because that makes your water very acidic. Okay, so be aware of that fact. Again, if you're going to be drinking more coffee, drink more water. So be aware of all the the chemical content in that. So definitely number one, organic. So my preference is always to use organic coffee. So there's a whole process involved in coffee, in the regions, how it's grown, where it's grown. There is like we're at Starbucks here, and apparently Starbucks grows a lot of its coffee in the lower mountainous regions of Indonesia. And then you got coffee that are grown way high up in the mountains, such as Ethiopian coffee. And this will produce different kind of ingredients and different flavors and so on. So of course, the higher the mountains, we know when we climb mountains, we also get a little bit more exhausted because less oxygens. So anything that has to survive in the higher altitudes, in the harsher altitudes, are prone to, for their own survival, of having to deal with these kind of circumstances. So yes, different coffees, different qualities to them, and regions of the world, elevations, and so on. And again, then treatments. So now also what happens is when the way the coffees get harvested, machine, or they hand-picked, I see that an awful lot of the testing that I do with my wands, whether these are produced products or even food preparations in restaurants, but even in how everything is being processed, with the way, the type of people that get into it, what is their energy like. So in the harvesting process, very important. And then, of course, once they actually get the coffee bean, it's really not a bean coming off the plant or the tree, but it's actually a cherry. Okay, so the cherry gets picked, and then they have to remove the outer part of the cherry to get to the bean. And there is some water washing processes involved to remove that, and that's a very much a quicker process. Or there are processes where people end up keeping the beans and then allowing it to ferment in the sun. This creates a whole bunch of enzyme actions, and it brings different flavors and different ingredients out of the coffee, and that will actually bring more benefit as well from that in that type of a process. So it's a natural fermentation, and we know fermented foods are good. So that type of a coffee is definitely much better too. And then after that, of course, there's the many different kind of roasting process, light roast, dark roast, and all these bring out different parts and ingredients of and flavors, of course, and very often we go for the taste and the flavor of coffee. Yet I think that most people, when they first start drinking coffee, what happens is that the first mouthful, or probably the first cup of coffee, in a lot of cases, people don't so much enjoy it. So nowadays what we've done is we've got all the different kind of sugars, and now we've become not just coffee addicts, but become sugar addicts, okay? And then because we got problems with sugar, we have sugar substitutes, Sweet and Low and Splenda, and then we've got our natural stuff such as stevia as well. So now we start adding things into it, and then of course dairy products or even soy products. So you have to make decisions in those areas also, what can be good and what is going to actually, with the additions that you put into the coffee, that could bring this into an even unhealthier perhaps situation, or could affect the way you stimulate it. Because coffee is a stimulant, again, on the adrenals. And then if you add a lot of sugar, I see people adding 4 bags of sugar into their coffee. And we know that kind of creates another problem on the blood sugar levels, which then creates a problem on your insulin levels. And now you get that roller coaster ride on the adrenals, and then you get a roller coaster ride on the insulin level on your body. So you really go up and you come crashing down. So stimulation galore, you do that over a period of time. It doesn't contribute really to many benefits. You maybe it feels good initially, but when you get the crash and have to recover from the crash, over time, this is kind of harsh on your body, particularly, your adrenals. Adrenal fatigue comes in, okay? And then again, all these glands and hormones kind of work together. So manage, if you enjoy a cup of coffee, and we know that all around coffee, there's a big social factor, okay? People do it definitely as their maybe wake up call or way of getting out of bed and kind of getting going for the day. But there's a lot of social camaraderie. Like here we are at a Starbucks. How many people say, hey, well, let's meet at a Starbucks or Tim Hortons or whatever. And that's where the consumption of coffee just really kind of goes up. Of course, you've got choices. You can go to teas and so on, but we still see that, the coffee consumption, again, is huge. So watch what you also add into your coffee. I think for myself, what I like is just a straight coffee, okay? And but if you were to add again sugars in it, be aware, okay? So it's all about knowing the facts, being wise, and doing it. How you're going to end up treating yourself for the long term, and because we're our own best managers, we can make our own decisions that way. So in the whole area of use of coffee, there are even those who've come out with in the different products here. We've got one called Jovita. It came out as a weight loss product. This is energy, and there's a slim roast, which is another weight loss. That was one from Sozo, all to help you with losing weight. And so because we know that if they can do any kind of combination with coffee, and if it can work, that'd be great. But again, there's so many other factors attached to what coffee does, and then all these other additives to it. Will it work? Very questionable. Some might end up with some results on it, but in a lot of cases, you have to review these things. So don't necessarily get on the hype of, yes, I'm going to lose 30 pounds because I got this great coffee, okay? Because very often it is a hype and people try and then they kind of give up. So there's other things I mentioned about your hormones, your adrenaline, factors like that, thyroid issues, because your thyroid is the thermostat of your body, okay? Very important. what level your metabolism is at. So if your metabolism is low, you got to get working on your thyroid rather than drinking more coffee. It actually will work in reverse for you. So in a short little bit, what we're going to do is we're going to set up, and we're going to do a little bit of distance energy measuring of these various coffees. We've got McDonald's, we've got several different types of Starbucks coffee. I've got some of these weight loss coffee, and even with some of the sweeteners as to how they affect your body. So in an upcoming video on YouTube, you're going to see, okay, that will be attached to this particular video, as to how some of these coffees are going to end up measuring up for you. And again, if you have any kind of questions, bring it to us. And I think this is a great important topic here to cover. And so yes, also follow us on YouTube. Okay, so if you go to YouTube, bioenergywellnesscare.com, you'll see many of our videos that we've already been producing for the last several months. So many different subjects, interesting subjects, and we'll bring everything down into a level of how it can be measured. Again, the big thing that I always say, whatever can be measured can be managed. So we're going to show you in that additional YouTube video the differences in the coffees that you might have, and that might allow you to kind of give more information to make somewhat of a wiser decision as to which coffee you do want to consume. So today we're not going to make this a very long production. I just want to again thank you for being here with us this morning, and come again, and please share this information with others, your friends, your family, your loved ones. We do care, we do share, we love you, and we wish you a wonderful day, and watch your coffee.